From dark skies to bright windows, from climate change impacted communities in Alaska to the Empire State Building, Nancy Clanton's work has focused on bringing beauty, health, and equitable access through advocacy, design, and engineering. In tonight's program, she shares with us the importance of light and the impact equitable access to windows has on employee productivity, test scores, and health. Nancy is the CEO of Visibility Innovations, a lighting design firm specializing in sustainable and regenerative design. She is a registered professional engineer, a member of the National Academy of Science Committee on the Assessment of Solid-State Lighting, and is our nation's representative with the American National Standards Institute, developing criteria for lighting and views worldwide. She is also working as an adjunct researcher at the University of Alaska and has worked with the International Dark Sky Association on the greening of the White House and the Empire State Building, and we're very fortunate that she calls Vail home, including as a council member here at a congregation at the Vail Chapel, and one of her earliest projects was the Vail Public Library. Please join me in welcoming Nancy Clanton.
Thank you. Boy, thank you, Megan. And just a little bit, the Vail Public Library. We happen to have the architect here, Pam Hopkins, raise your hand. And Sherry Dorwood, who was the landscape architect, raise your hand. We started working together 40 years ago, at least. So I'm so excited that they're here. I really am, so thank you. Anyway, what an exciting topic. This is one of my passions, it's not who you are, it's what you do. That everybody should have access to views. We are so lucky in Vail. You know, my office is in my bedroom on the 3rd floor, and I can look out and I see the Front Range, the Gore Range, everything. I'm going, we're so lucky here. And yet I think, what if you were in New York City and what you could do? Or you're stuck in a basement somewhere. How many of you have worked in a windowless office or environment? Yeah, look at that. And how tough that is. And what I'm hoping, like Megan said, and I'll go through a little bit of the criteria with you, I am working on standards, International Standards Organization, working with 42 countries to bring views to everyone. We'll see. We've got a long challenge ahead. There are some countries that aren't really into this, but we're going to see what happens. So here we are. One thing we know, our lives evolve around daylight. Just looking at, my son who is here, Britt, he said, Mom, is that taken at Chautauqua? Yeah, I took most of the pictures, and the Chautauqua and Boulder. And it's just to look at what it is and that we play. Kids need to be outside. We need to be outside, all of that. The very importance about it. And viewed to the outside so many times. Any architects here? Okay, all right. Woo-hoo. Let's go architects. And so many times what you all are faced with, we have this block and we have to get this building in here and so many square feet and then you hand it off to the interior designer and hopefully the interior designer can work things around. But what we've noticed, it's that it is kind of, like I mentioned, it's who you are. Who gets the corner office? It's the CEO. Who gets the beautiful views? It's the judge. And the court reporters are stuck in windowless areas. And I'm going, something's wrong here. Something's wrong. So this is kind of my passion on where we are. And there we go. A view is a view is a view. It's not that important. Well, I'm going to show you some research that really delves into, yes, views are important. and what it does to our brain and our minds and all of that. So let's start on the journey. This picture I actually took. It's at the U.S. Green Building Council. We were there as lighting designers and consultants for this project. And we're going, does the research really support all this? Some entities like U.S. Green Building Council, for you architects, I'm sure you know, LEED certification, all of that. What is that about and why? And there is a credit on views. It's not mandatory. I wish it were mandatory. I'm working on it. I'm on their advisor. I want it mandatory so that we can start doing it. But what is being proposed a lot are these artificial views. Like, well, can't we just put a screen and that should be good enough? There's some great research done at the University of Oregon many years ago where they had a police call center station and where one room was windowless, another room had a view out into the parking lot, all of that, and the third room actually had a screen showing the view out into the parking lot. You know, the same as what the real view was. And they started measuring response time and anxiety and all of that. And they found out that the fake view had the same response time as the windowless office area. So you're going, whatever. Have anyone heard about the dormitory that was going to be built in California? Yeah, a couple of you have, and how we protested that. A whole bunch of LEED fellows and we wrote a letter and said, you can't do it. The person who was going to sponsor this, dormitory for about 8,000 students wanted no windows. And we could do it all with screens, and they can do, just in there with it. And we protested it and dragged out everything. They finally stopped the project. I don't want to get into whose name it is in case any of you are related to the person that was going to do it. But basically, you can't fake a view at all. Now, have views away. I want to go back. Oh yeah, we're inside creatures. This is something else that they've noticed in China, that a lot of the kids are myopic, that, they've gone from about 20% of children needing reading glasses or regular glasses to over 95%. And just, is it screen time, whatever it is, like it's that view versus looking outside. So if you have children, get them off their screens for a while. Just really don't allow it. Because we spend so much of our time indoors. Quite a few of you, who was it who said you came tonight to get out, right? Well, yeah, a couple of you said, oh, it's snowstorm, time to get out. And it's so true to have that. Well, have views been documented? And again, looking at what is it really proof, nice to have, or should we really be using it? And the quality of the view. Like you could just look out at a blur, and I know that there's a lot of movement, especially you architects will know this, on fritting on the windows or doing a type of haze on the windows to avoid a lot of heat coming in. This is the new phase, but it's not the thing to do if you're sacrificing. Or what I'm working with, the birds, hitting the windows, so they want all these decals and everything over it. I get it, and yet not if our eyes stop at the window and we don't go further. We get focused on something that is really close in and we can't go through with it. So this is like I'm hoping for the magic person out there to design a window that is always clear, and yet it does all those other great things, limits heat and all of that. And the birds can't, they don't think it's a glass. We can do it, right? We can do it. We can start designing this new technology to do that. Okay, now I'm going to be asking you all, we're going to raise our hands. And those of you online, you can, Megan will keep. I'm going to show you 6 views. Look at them now, then I'll put them all together, and then we'll vote. So look at that view, or those 2 views. Look at those. And then look at those. I'm going to put them together. First, I want to ask, which is the worst view? Anyone can shout it out. 2. Okay, how many people think 2 is the worst view? A man-made structure. Happens to be the aerial lift bridge in Duluth, Minnesota, which is famous. And yet it's man-made. And one reason why I think it is, there's no straight line in nature. No straight lines. That's why a chapel like this with the wood and everything, it's comforting. It is kind of, it's a low spatial frequency. And we look at all of our current architecture or modern architecture with straight lines. And when we look at man-made things, I'm always worried about that. Okay, now we're going to vote on the best view. I hear 5. Anybody else? 6? And 3. All right. Who says 3? Oh, yeah. It's my son. He just wanted to. So what's the difference? Okay, Pam, you said 6 or 5? I said 5. Sherry? 6. Okay, Pam, why did you like 5 the best?
I like the depth of it. I like the different, you've got the mountains, you've got some rocks, you've got some water, you've got a whole bunch of things.
Okay, what she said for you, those of you online, she likes the depth of it, the water, the everything about it. It's action. And Sherry, why did you like 6?
Well, I kind of felt there was a tie between.
There we go. Okay.
Is it on? No. Yeah, it is? Okay. Well, I thought it was a tie between 5 and 6, but 6 to me was a little more intriguing. It was a little more unknown. It kind of said, come into the hollow and the beyond, and I just found it more interesting. Maybe it's because we see mountains every day.
That could be. Okay, anyone else want to talk about it? Pastor Scott, you've got?
I like
Okay.
6 because
Wait.
I like 6 because it feels like it's inviting me into this small space where there is shade and trees and water, and it's inviting me to come in and sit down and contemplate.
And I disagree with him. But
Okay.
I'm going for 5. I think it's absolutely stunningly beautiful.
Well, you all picked what most people say. So when I start defining quality of view, I want you to remember that. And by the way, I did a great experiment here in Vail. I took 3 of the most wonderful people up on a hike, and I made them stop and look in a certain direction. Pam and Cherry were 2 of the people, and we'd walk up the trail, and I go, okay, stop. And I made them fill out a questionnaire on their quality of the view. Okay, rocks. hill climb, all of that. And then at other points, I made them turn around. I said, look this direction. And it was the view of the mountains and everything. Wouldn't you two agree that that's what you enjoyed it? So I brought intelligent people, but what was so fascinating about it, they really got into it. Like, oh yeah, and that park over there, and those houses and everything. It was great. It was a wonderful experiment. And I've got all the results of those, which I'm not going to display because I haven't gotten their permission yet. Do real estate agents say there's an importance of a view? Yeah. Same space, ground floor, same space, 30 floors up. Which are you going to pay more for? Up, right. So I'm going, this is an issue of where we are. And yes, you do pay more for a view. So we all know it, then why aren't we doing it? I said, we just don't have the real estate. We can't do everything. My dream is, sorry, architects don't decide where the building goes. Landscape architects decide where the building goes so that they can model the landscape. And we don't have to have the same rectangular buildings. They can really be different shapes and work around it. Yeah, what about the second guy? You would not want him to, be helping you. But does it affect people? And I think it does. It really, really does. And again, the research will show that. I love this cartoon. Everyone else is complaining because you're the only one who has a window, so I've been ordered to paint over it. Talk about the equity. Or, again, looking at prisons and people that don't get a view, or they're stuck in isolation for a while. It's really sad. It's almost like torture to have that done. Yes, it does support it. It definitely does. Here's some research questions by the University of California at Berkeley. My dear researcher, Wan Ho Ki, and she has done amazing research. I have spoken with her at conferences, and she's given me permission to actually show some of their slides and their research on it, on the views. And she basically said, do people feel differently about the thermal environment? I never would have thought of that, closer to the window. Or can the view through a window change emotions and cognitive performance? So those are 2 experimental rooms. And they actually did do brain scans on the different people and looked at it, and even how often you look out at a view, which is fascinating. And this is what I thought was interesting, that you, identical spaces with and without windows, it's almost like you see what's going on outside and your body adjusts to it versus being in a windowless place and you go, I don't know, is it cold or hot outside? You don't know. You have no connection to nature and what's going on. And here's her summary slide for it. You feel slightly warmer in ambient conditions, which could save a lot of energy, they said, like 8% in cooling energy and 6.5%. This would be great for energy companies. Say, windows are bad because of the thermal gain. They're going, no, it's not. You actually are more comfortable. Here's what I love. You felt happier. Positive emotions, decrease in negative emotions. All of a sudden we're going, now we're getting somewhere. And you have a better working memory, better concentration if you have a view. So many times we hear, views are distracting. Don't put a view in, like in classrooms and stuff. Don't do it. They're distracting. We're now finding you have to do it. And you can't have a classroom without a view. And so you're going, what if we're learning about the roles of views in healthy buildings? This is per book of my dear friend Lisa Heschong, and I brought her book with me. And of course, I have all these little notes everywhere because I write up books. I'm underlining and all of that. But it's called Visual Delight in Architecture. And we do have a link to this, this particular book. And we've got some papers back there. This is the most amazing book I've ever read on why you have to have views. This should be mandatory in schools of architecture. Okay? Architects? We're going to do it. But it's really an amazing book, and to have that there. And here are kind of what Lisa has done. And again, I've spoken with Lisa on this subject. And she is the one who has done the research. She's MIT architect, graduate, and is amazing. You've always heard that all schools have to have views and that it's better learning, better test scores. Lisa's the one who did this research. And she basically studied 20,000 students. When she started the research, it was only for daylight. Like if students had daylight, how were their test scores? And she found out that they had a big increase in test scores. Then she dug into the data more, and it wasn't just skylights or tubular lights. The ones who had the best test scores had great views. So she goes, there's something here. So she went and did research at a call center, Sacramento Municipal Utility District, and SMUD they call it. And she looked at the call workers in the basement and on the first floor. And on the first floor was how close you are to the window or not, and in the basement. And what she found was that it was an amazing study that the people, the call center workers on the first floor process calls faster. In fact, the increase in productivity was so huge that they almost could pay for the entire cost of the building in 1 year because of increased productivity. All of a sudden, Lisa's going, how come people aren't getting this? And there it is. There's kind of a summary of it. The call center, 7 to 12% faster worker speed, desktop studies, less fatigue, and school studies, up to 30% better test scores when students had views. It's not distraction. It's so important for them to look outside. Again, the whole thing is, well, what type of view is it? You know, and this is where you look at GPS, and this was done for nurses in a health study, nurses who lived closer to forests and all of that. They found, and again, this is with nurses, 12% lower mortality if living within a block of tree cover. This is like where you live. Do you walk home? Do you take a forest bathing? Whatever. I'm just like blown away at this. And Ulrich, 1984, he was the one who discovered that patients need less pain medication if they have a view. Now, my daughter's a doctor, and she said, Mom, the patients have great views now. It's the staff. We are stuck in these little rooms or whatever, and we're not given the priority that the patients are. And I'm saying everyone, especially if you're in a high-stress situation. We're currently now working with the military on, they're called SCIFs. Does everyone know what a SCIF is? Yeah, please, you know what SCIF is. You know, it is a high secure area where they're kind of watching monitors and all that. And right now they can't have windows. We are trying to get it to change it so that they can have windows. And we did it at the Pentagon. way, way, way back after greening of the White House, we went to the Pentagon and I noticed all the generals had outdoor windows or windows to the outside. So I kind of told a little fib. I went, it's way too dangerous for the generals to be on the outside. Some sniper could take them out. You got to move them inside. Yeah, they went, oh yeah, good luck. I went back 10 years later. All the generals were on the inside, and they had this big walking area. I went, yes, they finally listened into what it is. It's like moving people around and getting more open space for it. There's a lot of work in Japan mostly, and I'm working with Dr. Koga in Japan at a medical school there, and she has been testing out my view theory, and she goes, it really is working. And I think the Japanese have always known the importance of a view, even though it's closer up, and to what that is. Here is the whole thing that from Lisa's books. You sleep better, you have better working memory, you're happier, you're more concentrated, all of that. You process tasks faster. Wow, look at that. We need views. So we spend close to 47% of our time mind wandering, they call it. If I give one of you a math problem and you have to add 2 plus 2 plus minus 3, it's the front part of your brain that's working on that. As soon as you're done, it switches to the back part of the brain and it's faster and working better. And this is the mind wandering. The more you can mind wander, and views does it to you, the more you mind wander, the more innovative, the more creative, the less anxiety, all of that is incredibly important. In my office, in my home, I'm constantly mind wandering on these conference calls, and I tell people, oh, wow, look at that. And we're even looking at University of Oregon did a whole study on dynamism, on birds and action and the leaves, flowing aspen leaves, the sound of it, all of that, incredibly important. Something I noticed because I heard a talk about how when we switch to the back part of our brain, we look to the right and outdoors. Look at all these pictures. Is everyone looking to the right? I'm going, so I'd love for you all to notice your own behavior and see if you do it, because there's something there, or is it if you're left-handed, you look to the left. But I thought that was fascinating to see that. And yes, the more we daydream, the better it is. We have to daydream. We got to get kids outside and what's going on. Mind wandering while work. Study after study after study shows the importance of this mind wandering. 40% of our time at work is mind wandering, and it's so important. You're just going, what now? You're either planning your day or you're doing something, but looking outside and the views is what you need. So now I'm going to dig into the work I'm doing for the ISO, for the 42 countries, on what is the view, what's the quality of the view, different layers of it. And we have found that we've got, those are all vertical layers, but would you call them really great quality? No, which is your favorite? Right, where you can actually see trees, everything that you've got. So even though you can look outside, you've got to look at the quality of the view and what's going on. I teach some lectures at Stanford University, and I always ask the students before they come to the lecture to take a picture of their favorite work spot of where they like to work. And then I go, and why is it? Is it best acoustics? Good daylight views? Is it thermally comfortable? What is it during COVID times? What is it? Acoustics is always number one. They don't want to hear, they want quietness when they're trying to study. Views is always number two. But the few Stanford students during COVID, they said, we're stuck in our dorm rooms and we had to look out at this concrete wall right behind. They said it was awful. Yet the ones who say, oh, well, I got to be at home and I could look out over everything and it was just beautiful. They went, I'm sorry you didn't have a good view in what's going on. So what we're doing is we're actually looking at in these standards, can we go, is there a ground level, a vertical level, and a sky level? And that's kind of what we're looking at. And again, this is from Denver, looking out over, and you can see the Rocky Mountains in the background. And we're dividing those into look at what that is. And here is the different levels of views that we have. And to start with some recommendation that we can do for the views. Here's criteria that is in Europe. It's EN 17037. I've got it memorized. That's my engineering mind. And we're testing out this criteria if it works. For those of you who are in buildings, how many have worked on LEED projects? Okay, so quite a few of you. The criteria for views in LEED is minimum view up there. It is basically the view that you can see out of a window. And what this criteria is doing, it's pretty in-depth. It's like takes every position of people in the building where they're working, and it looks at the view angle that they have, horizontal and vertical. And what is it? And that's where the view angle is, from everything 14 degrees up to 54 degrees. But what else that they're doing is from the window out to the view. How far is it? And no one else has done that. How many meters out? To the ground, out to the vertical, out to the sky. And then the more you have, the more layers you have. Like minimum, you have to have at least one landscape. Okay. But then median, landscape, and another layer. And then finally, high, all the layers. Here in Vail, we've got them all. And we're so lucky. And it's so beautiful. It's just like view number 6 that so many of you picked. It has all of these. And it has action with it. Yeah, this kind of looks like a lot of our office spaces. So I put windows in, but, I didn't know where you're going to be sitting. I do a lot of post-occupancy evaluations for the government, looking at courthouses and office buildings and such. And we always give out subject evaluations to the occupants. The people that can't stand their office are the ones in windowless offices. And I'm going, something's wrong here. We've got to do something. So again, Lisa's book, you can look at it. We actually worked on this for the U.S. Green Building Council when, again, we were helping them with the day lighting and their electric lighting. And I just love to look at the different studies we did for them. 2 different scenarios. One was having perimeter offices outside, single offices, or switching it, putting the open offices at the window and the single offices inside. And it was amazing because they actually decided to go with everyone should have a view. And they did glass so that you could see outside. It's just a fun study. By the way, what color is the carpet here? It's white. We couldn't get a light shelf in because they were renting it. So we used the carpet as a light shelf so that the daylight could bounce off of it and get deep into the space, and it worked. Great architecture did it. Frank Lloyd Wright, everything going we knew it. We knew what it is. And I'm going, how can we get architecture today and designs to really start doing this completely? Well, now I'm going to dip a little bit into darkness. Because views, we always think of daylight, but we also have to see the stars and what it is. And life needs darkness. Daylight first, but then we also need healthy darkness. And a lot of you, have you heard to turn off your phones at night or don't do blue lights and all of that? Yeah, so it's like everyone has his or her phone on night shift, right? If not, ask your neighbor to help you during our break and to shift it so that you don't get exposure to the blue light. The sun's telling us during the day, we get that blue sunshine coming in. And do you know where that sunshine hits? The bottom part of our retina. And that really suppresses our melatonin, gets our serotonin going. And every day you should be out in the morning between 10 and noon taking at least a 20-minute walk to really get your circadian rhythm back in. And so that's important. Technically, it's called Rayleigh scattering of the sun coming in, but because all of the atmosphere scatters blue light, when the sun sets, all the light, the blue light's being captured in the atmosphere, and what comes through? The red. So nature is saying to us, when the sun sets, have that red light come through and really relaxing us. And so we're going, the circle of light, how does light affect the 3 Ps? You know, the plants, the pollinators, the people. And to go, what does outdoor lighting do for that? So let's start with plants, and this is fascinating. Something for you landscape architects, we all go, oh, let's light everything and how beautiful this landscape is and no one's out there. Plants they have a certain photo period. They have a problem that, look at the picture on the right by the street light. When they're exposed to light, they're switched off of their seasonal migration, I'm going to call it, even though that's not the right term. But it's a photo period that leaves could hang on the trees for up to 2 weeks longer. Snow comes, the tree could tip over. So this is a problem. All of you that have landscape lighting, great. As long as you're out there enjoying it, when no one's around, please turn it off. A great landscape architect, Carol Franklin, she was way, way, way back. We worked on greening the White House together. And I said to Carol, what about landscape lighting and how great it is? And she said, oh, Nancy, everyone loves to be in the spotlight, but not while we're sleeping. And so I went, okay, that's a good point. Let's turn off the lights if no one's around to help. And Virginia Tech Transportation Institute did the most amazing study on light and how it affected plants. They found out that the soybean production in Illinois went to only 30% production of the lights of the soybeans underneath the street lights. You see how green everything is? They don't finish. And they just cannot produce. So this was actually one of the best studies I had seen on the effect of light on plants. Oh, the pollinators, the moths, the nighttime pollinators. Do any of you get them trapped? Maybe not here in Colorado or in Vail, but if you live anywhere else or see them buzzing around the lights and they can't go anywhere and all of that. And yes, they get trapped. They're not out doing their job. There are more nighttime pollinators than there are bees and everything else. Really important. This is really sad. You look at how many moths that they captured in 1950, one trap, one night, over 50,000 moths. Now let's go down to 1979. One trap. The entire summer, May 2nd through September, 50,000 moths. Instead of one night, now we're the entire summer. Then we look at year 2000, 19 traps the entire summer, and we're down to 6,000 moths. They have predicted that the moths have decreased to less than 5% of the population, of their population. It's a real issue. And if you look at the outdoor light pollution, everything, the moths get trapped in it. They're not out doing what they have to do in the darkness. And we all see different colors. In fact, before we started, we're talking about colors and how we all see different vision. We mostly, at least human beings, see red, green, blue. You know, we're triconal. Most animals are biconal, which means like large deer and elk, they cannot see red. That's why hunters can go out and bright red and everything. It looks black to them. But they can see into the ultraviolet. So every animal has a different thing. You've heard a lot of like turtle hatching and keeping the lights off and going amber lights. Well, this happens with every single species on the earth and what it is. We're working up right now in Alaska in a fishing village, Cordova. That's the one that got destroyed by the oil spill. And their lights are really hurting the salmon and the bird migration. So we're doing a big living lab up there where we're putting in lights that we can change the color of the light as the season goes. And to keep and to dim the lights, do it seasonally and everything. And Travis Loncourt with UCLA, he's written the most amazing book on the ecological effects of lighting in animals. He has mapped over 600 species and exactly what light they need or are affected by it. So I would go, I want everyone to promise, turn off your porch lights and your lights at night. You don't need them and you're affecting everyone. And if you do have them, please get them more towards the red, because we need the evening wind down. The critters do, everyone does. And at night, it's important to be exposed to red light. And the red light hits the top part of the retina. Remember, I told you that the blue light was the bottom part. The top part of the retina, just like firelight. And that's what starts our melatonin. Get rid of the blue light. So what do these 3 Ps have in common? Get rid of that blue light at night for everyone. Blue light is daytime and not at night. Go into a hardware store or whatever and you see the little LED light bulbs and they go, oh, daylight lamps, whatever. Please don't buy them. Buy the warmer color lights, or even my favorite, dim to warm, that the light changes as you dim the lights. That's what we need to expose ourselves, your televisions, everything. Stop watching blue TVs and screens at night. So here are my rules. I just kind of threw some out for city officials or for lighting ordinances or for you. Use low-level wayfinding light. Just kind of go through. You don't need bright lights at all. Adjust to low light levels at night as we go. Our eyes work actually better at low light level than they do at bright light level because the glare, like these lights here, oh, I can see you now. Woo. But the glare from the lights really hurts our vision, especially as we age and as we start losing our eyesight. It's really a problem. Minimize blue light. Hey, 2700K. I know that sounds really weird. Just write it down. When you go to the hardware store, only buy 2700K lights, period. That's the color of light. Eliminate the uplight. Uplight, what good is it doing? It's doing nothing. Control backlight, the glare. Controls, controls, controls. And then I added one. Please don't light the landscape. Please. Thank you very much. That is it. I will be open for questions, but how did I do on time? I didn't have a watch. Awesome. I got the thumbs up. But any questions about what I talked about or?
Yes, so we'll alternate questions in the room and questions online. I'll come around to you, the microphone will be on, and I'll ask you to speak into the microphone, not over the microphone or near the microphone. It only works if you speak into the microphone. I'll ask that you stand if you're able, and we have plenty of time, so sometimes I'll ask you to minimize your context, but in this case, especially with the architects in the room, feel free to share the breadth of your inquiry. And Megan, we have questions online. Do we have questions in the room? We'll start here in the room. Okay, then I have a question to start.
Ooh, I like that.
What about these fancy desk lights that say it mimics sunshine and it's supposed to give you vitamin D, and so you can be in a basement interior office, the boss says, and you can buy this little light and it'll mimic access to daylight. What do we think about that?
Yeah.
Not for the Vail Symposium offices.
No, got
for
it.
other people's offices.
It's called seasonal affective disorder, that you need light coming directly in. If you are incredibly affected by seasonal affective disorder, and that usually happens way north, like in Alaska or Canada or somewhere, then I would say yes, if you're in darkness during the day and you need it, yes. But for us here in Vail, get outside and do that. And those task lights, those desk lights, once you hit 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you need to start winding down. That's when your melatonin starts, it wants to slow down and really start kicking in, about 7 o'clock at night. So yes and no. What would be best is if that light had many adjustments, like daytime, and then automatically knew, I can keep track of time. But one thing, and sorry for going a little bit further in that we are imprinted with where we are born. Everything about daylight and all of that is imprinted in us. If you were born in Florida and you moved to Alaska, your chances of seasonal affective disorder is a lot greater than people who were born and grew up in Alaska. So that is something that we've noticed, it's imprinted. But seasonal affective disorder is a real thing.
Okay, anybody here in the room? Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm really enjoying this because we have a fight about light at night. So I'm on your side, and hopefully he learned something. Anyway, but my question is, with all the countries, are you working on the migration of the birds with all of the light that we have nowadays? and that we're losing thousands of birds. And is that part of your topic?
It isn't with the 42 countries. I'm only looking at daylight. But yes, we are looking at migration bird patterns. And again, I'm working with Dr. Loncourt, from UCLA. And he is involved with us up in Alaska because bird migration is incredibly important. Does anyone know what birds follow on their migration path? Yes, back there.
The Earth's electromagnetic field.
The Earth's electromagnetic field. Partly yes. Landscape, what they follow are rivers and mountains. And that's why they will look at, but the one thing that I learned, again from Dr. Loncourt, when they migrate, the moon is on one side of them. And so if they have a building full of light at night, they circle it because they get confused where they're going. And it's called FLAP. It's an organization up in Canada. They get a lot of buildings in Ontario and different cities in Canada to turn off their lights in their large buildings during bird migration. So yes, it's spot on. It's not only the color, it is the confusion of where the moon is and where do we go. But it's all coastline, everything. They follow mountains, they follow rivers, they follow coastlines. There is this feeling that something has to be at one side or another. But when it's dark, they follow the moon and the brightness of it. Great question.
All right, we have a question online.
All right. Could you describe the danger of fitting young children with dark glasses?
Yes, fitting young children with dark glasses. Young children actually need ultraviolet light to develop their eyes. We stop seeing ultraviolet, and again, I'm not a medical doctor, at about puberty. We start seeing ultraviolet. But to develop young eyes, they have to see it. So if you put dark glasses on children, you're taking away that ultraviolet for their development. So yes, very, very important. In fact, Britt, didn't I tell you to not put dark glasses on your kids when they were young? Yeah, no sunglasses for kids.
Right.
Because they need it. And it's strange. You go, no, they have to be outside without sunglasses on. So great question.
And am I jumping ahead if I ask if we get to see the final slide at some point here?
Oh. What color do people see? And you can shout it out.
Blue and black.
Blue and black.
White and gold.
White and gold. Blue and black. White and gold.
Gold and white.
Gold and white. How many see blue and black? How many see white and gold? Oh, is it going to be a fun discussion afterwards? Does anyone see blue and gold? All right, we are a gang. They actually think we may be tetrachroma, the ones who see blue and gold. It's so brilliant, blue and gold to me. Isn't that amazing? Now, I'm going to assume that everyone who said blue and gold have 2 X chromosomes, right? Okay? Because that's how we see color, is from our X chromosomes. And we've got, RGB, and if one starts defecting a little bit, the other one will jump in. So people with only 1 X chromosome We sometimes say they're colorblind. I say chroma deficient. Chroma deficient. Now, a few of us who have, the spares, one of them may be off a little bit and more in the yellow, and that's tetrachroma. The best Radiolab programs on NPR just go the color blue, and they'll talk about, we only started seeing the color blue in the Dark Ages. Ulysses never mentioned the colored blue in the Odyssey. So it's something we have evolved to see. But then the next session, they have finding the perfect tetrachroma person. And it was amazing. I don't want to give the ending. Okay, I will. They found her, and she said, look up at the sky. What color do you see? They said, oh, it's the most brilliant blue I've ever seen. She said, you don't see the red streaks going through the sky. And again, Radiolab, it was put on a couple years ago, but you can still go to it. And so the few of us have seen blue and gold, yeah, we're leaning towards the tetrachroma a little bit, double X. Other questions? Yes.
Thank you. What do you advise local governments to do with their street lights?
Oh, Tom, what a great question. Because we've gone from the orange light, the high pressure sodium, to LED lighting, the LED lighting is going in way too blue, in my opinion. They should be putting in 2700K or below and dimmable streetlights. And LEDs are so easy to dim. So we are doing recommendations for communities in cities around the nation. We did boulders. In fact, we're actually working with Pitkin County. Salida. We got all solar streetlights there and everything warm. But there's a glare rating that you say don't have any more than a G0 or G1 glare rating. So right now they go, oh, we get to shine light everywhere. But the LEDs are right on the lens, where the old legacy light source was up inside of the light fixture, and it had time to get out. You don't see those little dots of light. So you have to really be careful in those dots of light. So dim the lights, warm color, and low glare. And if no one's on the street, turn them off if you can. Virginia Tech has developed a program, it's called Just-in-Time Lighting, where your car can actually activate the street lights. You know what my dream is? Okay, back to my cell phone. That cars will know that I've got a cell phone and no car can hit a cell phone. Wouldn't that be great? Eliminate pedestrian, bicyclist deaths, everything. Bicycles can't hit cell phones either. We'll make them automatically stop. But what this is telling, like when you walk down the sidewalk, the streetlights could say, oh, we can slowly dim up as you walk down so you're not alone or you have light. Who's not carrying their cell phone with them right now? Okay, we got 2 people. All right. Make sure you're walking with somebody. But you're also careful, you avoid. But think of it, of how we could do it. So, thanks, Tom. I know I went longer in that question, but light pollution, glare, no uplight, warmer light, dimmable, and controllable. Very important.
Hey, thanks for sharing all your knowledge. It's been great. Wayfinding landscape lighting, solar, and is there a company or brand that you like?
I'll talk about it afterwards. I don't want to.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
On another note, Bioluminescent Bay in Puerto Rico and the island of Vieques, they're doing a lot of red lights in their town. And obviously when you do your headlamp, it's got a red light. What's the story with red light?
The red light is one that animals, bacteria, everything. Again, the sun setting. We're some of the few species that can see the color red. Nothing else can. That's why turtles they're not attracted to the light. They turn and go back to the ocean. The ocean glow. So it's really important, but that's why. And one other study that I saw was, bicyclist headlights. As you ride through the woods and everything, some frogs won't move for like 10 minutes after being exposed to bicycle light, even though if it's instantaneous. So I would love to get the bicycle light manufacturers to start doing other colors of light that doesn't disturb you're riding your bicycle and it's like, ooh, come on, turn down your light. It's like a little flashlight at you. But again, same reason. That's another movement would be great to do.
Hi there.
Hi.
If light is so important in our emotions and therefore how we act, do you know of studies going on about crime areas and prisons and things that light might do to affect and help in those situations?
What I do know, there is a lot of law enforcement, which we work with constantly, says, oh, more light, better, less crime, all of this. It's actually not true. Where more light could encourage more crime because the bad people can see and do everything. My favorite story that we worked with law enforcement at, it was Westminster, Colorado. And we're going through and doing streets of different types of lighting and different levels and different colors and all of that. And we worked with the law enforcement, and we started in their parking lot. And we had them fill out the subject evaluation, just these things. And we said, okay, and then we went around the town and then came back to the parking lot. I said, let's do the survey again. They go, well, why? We already did. I go, well, sometimes first and last, different answers. Please do it again. They did. Same answers. I go, interesting. We dimmed your lights down to 25%. They go, no, you didn't. I took the dimmer, went up, they went. And it's our parking lot. We didn't even know it. Because we get adapted to the lower light levels. We can walk in full moonlight. We can ski in full moon. We can do everything as long as we're adapted to it. So this whole thing that more light helps crime, or I need my garage light on to deter everyone, it's not true. It's a light coming on that may do it. Or with the military, they actually don't want light on because it interferes with their infrared cameras. And they said, no, don't put lights on. We'd rather have our infrared cameras work. So yes, there's a lot of work being done, but more has to be done. Question?
Yeah, my question is kind of two-part now. You mentioned the fact that kids shouldn't wear dark glasses, and I teach kids to ski, and we're always looking for goggles or sunglasses, and I have to wonder with the reflection, well, the sunlight and then the reflection off the snow, you're saying that the ultraviolet light or the sunlight won't damage their eyes? Because if I go without my sunglasses, I lose my night vision.
I don't know about that on brightness off of snow.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get back to you on that. I just know, like in normal with green and grass and everything, they need that ultraviolet normally. But the brightness and hurting, the brightness of the eye hurting, that's different than the ultraviolet.
Okay. I live in West Vail, down in Intermountain, and the LED streetlights off of I-70, they come over into our neighborhood and they actually allow us, there's enough light that you can see bears in bear season, but if the lights are out, and the lights are out now, every time the lights go out, I call CDOT and say, get those lights back on, especially during bear season, because we have kids, we have people coming from the bus, walking to their homes, and it's pitch dark down there. And I think it's a lot safer to have that light coming off the interstate. But maybe could they make it the light like a red light or
Yes.
something, so people can still see with traffic, make traffic safer on I-70, and maybe we can still see in our neighborhood without the blue light, would you say?
We'll talk afterwards, because my company did Dow Canyon, and all the lights are out, and I'll tell you why. But yes, there's a way of doing it and doing it safely.
Nancy, you've talked about LEDs, dimmability. I wonder what other technologies are we hoping come online in the next, let's say, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? What are we anticipating in the lighting industry to continue moving the ball forward?
Keep talking while I get a cough drop.
And you can turn your mic pack off there if you need to.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah.
Because I imagine that LEDs coming online felt like a big shift from an architectural standpoint. And so I wonder, is there something else coming? Have we reached the technological peak of lighting?
There is something else coming. LEDs have a little blue pump, and we always get blue spike in them. And then you cover it with phosphor, and that's how we get different colors. What I'm dreaming about is to look at laser diodes for lighting, because we can hand select the nanometers, and we don't have that blue spike with a whole bunch of stuff. Laser diodes, we could actually match natural phenomena of light at night, because the sky has the stars, natural light and colors of light. That's my dream. And if we went laser diodes, which, by the way, the car manufacturers are doing it without their headlights, Mercedes and Audis and all that, and they can change the light depending on where it is. That way we could really hone into exactly the color of light. I bet in 5 years from now, when we're all here, we're going to go, hey, remember with the old LED stuff, just like the old fluorescent and compact fluorescent? We'll be doing the same thing with lasers. 30 to 40% more energy efficient, because we're not losing a lot in the phosphor conversion. So it's really exciting. And the diodes are so teeny, we could light this entire chapel with maybe 2 little lights and you wouldn't even see them. Yeah, even lights are beautiful, except I don't do downlights. It's on top of my head, I like light coming in from all directions, like this indirect lighting and all of that. That's what we need. We light surfaces. So again, the lasers, we could take a little teeny diode and have the most amazing distribution on it. Back to my phone. What if I went, oh, I missed that, and I could just go change that distribution a little bit. And that's what we're looking at, doing that. Really cool.
I have one more. This one's a me question, and this is parent me. My kids are 8 and 11, and they're on screens in school. They're on as few screens as we can at home, but they're on them. What about these blue light glasses? Is this an intervention that can mitigate some of these effects for kids in particular?
Yeah, just get them off the screens. Okay. But it's that close contact in your eye and what happens. We need that distance of the view. They need to see outside.
This is where we acknowledge how lucky we are to live in Vail.
Oh, yes, we're so lucky to live in Vail. So lucky to live in Vail. I mean, I've been to Pam's house and Tom's house. Oh, the river there, everything is just beautiful. No, bless us. We're lucky to live in Vail.
I wonder, for folks in the audience, do you remember a working environment where you were down in a dungeon somewhere? I'm guessing most of us don't spend a lot of time in windowless spaces now here in 2024, but did you have experiences where you felt the impact of not having access to views? I know that those of us working right now have felt that for sure. Nancy, what are the key things we ought to be thinking about as we go out into the world? A lot of our community are seasonal here, so they're fortunate to spend time here, and then they go home to Scottsdale or Chicago or London or Manhattan, and we're also a community that has the ability to impact other communities and company environments. What are the key things we need to be thinking about when it comes to access to daylight and then architectural lighting?
Yeah, thank you. And I think that access to daylight, it's even rearranging buildings, just like what I talked about, the Pentagon. Where do people go? How do we, the equity, that it's, again, and my opening, it's not who you are, it's what you do. That everyone gets an access to view. And so when you go back to New York, when you go back to Chicago, look at your buildings. Look at the building across the street. How can we do this? We could just get together with architects. How would Frank Lloyd Wright do it? Ask on the most famous architecture, the architecture that we love. How do they do that? And the other thing to bring back, anyone here live in New York City? Okay, could you just tell them to tone down Times Square a little bit? The brilliance of it. I mean, I get headaches. It's like, can I wear my shades to go through Times Square? It's not helping anybody. And that's what, in the sky glow and everything. Las Vegas too, same thing. What have we missed by not seeing the stars? Okay, who has seen the Milky Way in the last month? Raise your hand. Okay, we all, before we go out to sleep, we should be able to walk outside, look at the Milky Way to calm down. I bring people out to see the Milky Way for the first time, and everyone gets quiet. They go, look at that. And I'm going, is that really an awe? No, I think it is our minds switching. Like I showed you the daylight views all of a distance, that's an infinite view. So I did talk to Wan-Hee Ko, the researcher with the brain scans. I said, could you go and do it for nighttime views and seeing the stars? Seeing what you notice, the difference in the activity of the brain to have that. And if we're missing that, we have it here in Vail, but most communities don't. So that's something else to bring back. Let's get the stars for everyone.
Nancy, I have a quick question. So my brother-in-law I'm pretty close with, he's currently in the Navy. He's stationed in Stuttgart, Germany, and I talk with him quite a bit. He works in a skiff facility, so has no windows, anything like that. So he always tells me when he goes to work in the morning, it's dark. He works in a windowless building, and then when he gets off work, it's also dark. Just looking for any advice. I know he said at work they give them vitamin D pills. I was just curious if you had any input on that and how I might be able to help him.
So I'm wondering how much information I can give you, how much is classified. But I will say I work on those facilities. And working at the Air Force, with the Air Force head psychiatrist. What is public information, again, they call it the kids in the SCIFs, the 19 to 22-year-olds. And what a SCIF is, it's where you are monitoring the world, action everywhere. You have to be basically in a dark environment. They don't want windows, they don't want anything, because they don't want your eyes to miss out on any action. Highest suicide rate in the Air Force are with the kids in SCIFs. Really sad. So we are working with a team, Dr. Brainerd at Thomas Jefferson Medical School, working with them, and we are setting up, not daylighting, yes, kind of, but I'll get there, electric lighting that's indirect, like this beautiful chapel, that can change the color of the light depending on your shift, and to get you oriented to the red light to start doing the melatonin production when you need it. We're setting up this experiment. We've got it at Vail Air Force Base, Osan in Korea. We're doing it in Hawaii at H5. And it's interesting. We are gathering data, saliva, we'll be getting the whole works on melatonin production. Now, my dream is that we get rid of Wi-Fi, and this is important for the military because they've come to our office in Boulder, and we go to Li-Fi using light as the internet, 2,000 to 3,000 times faster than Wi-Fi. And in the SCIFs, they could have 1 nanometer of light or a couple that no one else can get to. So they could have windows. They could see out. And no one can tap into their security and what they're doing. We're dipping our toe into Li-Fi, into that type of internet. And it is. Can you imagine every single light here, Christmas lights outside, I guess, could be giving you your internet, and that it would be equitable for everyone to have it. So that's something else that we're working on, getting windows into the SCIFs. And if nothing else, on their free time getting out, windows everywhere and not, frosted over. In fact, they say, the healthiest people in the SCIFs are the smokers because they go outside. When have you heard that? And they go, I'll go through security and come back in. But anyway, tell your brother that there's some hope. We are working on it very, very hard onto these experiments.
Kind of a segue here. Does melatonin come from the sun, or does the evening sun carry melatonin? My grandson takes melatonin to get him to sleep, but he fears it stunts growth. What is it and how does it work?
Melatonin is a hormone that we produce all by ourselves. And no, it doesn't stunt growth. You can take melatonin, but if you're in bright blue light, it's not going to work. It's going to suppress. Melatonin suppresses with blue light. And with red light, it is non-suppressed. Again, imagine that sun going and setting down. And some hospital workers can be in red light and still be active and anxious. We're trying to get shift workers to not be on a different melatonin schedule as everyone else. And it's possible with the color of the light. No red light. No blue light. But then you need serotonin. You need the blue light in the day to produce the melatonin at night. The blue light in the day, that's why it's called circadian cycle. It's the whole thing.
Any other questions here in the room?
Ooh, this is great.
So you always hear about the circadian cycle, but it's like today the day is 10 hours long, and in the summer it's 16 hours long. And so how does that work as far as, because obviously it's still at the similar parts of the day, but you know, we all going to go to bed at, we don't all go to bed at 7 anyway.
Circadian cycle is going to work year round, seasonally. Our bodies are used to it. And like I said, where it really works is your circadian cycle, where you were born, is the most imprinted in you. I was born in northern Minnesota, so I'm okay with the long nights and the long days. But if you move from where you were born, it may be tougher, and that's a seasonal affective disorder. So we are used to that seasonal cycle.
When you were talking about red light at night, would it make sense to have strong red light in your room, especially if you're going to be watching TV or other things? Is there a counterbalance type of thing where purposeful red light can give you a positive effect?
I don't know. But I'm worried about the glare. You know, glare does affect us. Again, just looking at a balance, you know, sunshine, sunsets. It's that balance. So, but I don't have a medical solution for that.
Do you read in bed?
I do read in bed. Yes, I do. With a 2700K lamp. And I love reading in bed. You get off of your screens, you get off of everything, and it's just calming. But I also listen to soothing music. That's my pattern.
All right, we are at our time, so I hope you'll all join me in thanking Nancy Clanton for spending her evening with us.